Welcome once again to the Sports Talk Your host and your conductor, Anthony Smith. And we do apologize for the abruptness of the show cutting off on that last part. So we're going to continue the ball rolling to give you this preview show. This will be part two, as we were inadvertently cut off due to technology. So what we're going to look at are the preview games, the top marquee games for what would be week 6. And we're going to start with Class 6A rankings. Once again, this one here is courtesy of K-Preps. We thank them as well. I have a slew of people I need to thank, such as Metro Sports, MoCan. Thank them. Of course, K-Preps, Vite Magazine. They always get my information out. Looking forward to the basketball season coming up. But we're in football season, so we're going to look at the top games in 6A. We're not going to give you the full rundown of all the games all across the state. That would be kind of time consuming. Not that I'm trying to slight anybody, but due to time constraints. So, 6A, number 1, Derby. Their last game, of course, we did that in the last segment, was a game against Hutchinson where they won 36-3. Derby continued its domination with a 36-3 road win versus Hutchinson. The Panthers led 15-0 at halftime before exploding for 3 touchdowns in the third. Quarterback Drew Kemp threw 2 touchdown passes while adding 2 more scores on the ground. Arias Finley led the ground game with 166 yards and a touchdown. Derby has allowed just 24 points and has won every game by 33 points or more. Their next game against 1-4 Valley Center. Number 2 in 6A, Gardner Edgerton, 5-0, last beat Shawnee Mission East 27-14. Defending champion Gardner Edgerton built a 2-score lead in the first half and held off Shawnee Mission East 27-14. The Trailblazers defense limited Shawnee Mission East to a season low 119 rushing yards on 31 attempts. The Lancers entered the contest averaging more than 290 yards per game on the ground. After the Lancers pulled to win 14-7 in the third quarter, Gardner Edgerton scored 2 more touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Their next game will be at 5A, number 1, Mill Valley, 4-1. Number 3, Manhattan, 5-0. Their last game they shut out Emporia 59-0. Manhattan stayed unbeaten by rolling to a 59-0 shutout of Emporia. The Indians scored 16 points in the first quarter and led 38-0 at halftime. Manhattan kept things on the ground with 400 yards and 8 offensive rushing touchdowns. Kai Mario Davis rushed for a team-high 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jaden Hutley added 86 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. Next, versus number 4, Wichita Northwest at 5-0. Number 4, Wichita Northwest. Their last game out, they beat Wichita West 60-14. Wichita Northwest remained unbeaten with a 60-14 win over Wichita West. Junior Jalen Mason passed for 340 yards. Whoa, let me see this again. I know Coach Martin, and I know Coach Martin has a very stout ground game. This here just adds another wrinkle. Junior Jalen Mason scored 340 yards and 4 touchdowns in the game. Mason connected with Ryder Campbell 7 times for 168 yards and a score, and with Chase Carter 3 times for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. Augie Fast added 196 yards rushing and reached the end zone 4 times. Next up, that's right, at number 3, Manhattan 5-0. This is a game that should get Northwest battle tested for state playoff run. Number 5, Blue Valley West. They outlasted then number 3, Blue Valley Northwest 42-35. Blue Valley West held off Blue Valley Northwest 42-35. The Jaguar defense held the Huskies from a game-tying touchdown on the final drive as Blue Valley Northwest quarterback Nathan Baxter's pass fell incomplete outside the end zone on the final play. Tate Nagy passed for 285 yards and 4 touchdowns for Blue Valley West. Nagy threw touchdown passes to 4 different teammates, with Quinn Myers catching 7 passes for 99 yards. Wayne Carter led the Jaguars with 117 yards rushing. Up next, Blue Valley Southwest 2-3. Now, we are going to take a look at 5A. Number 1, Mill Valley. Their last game, they beat Olathe North 42-36. Mill Valley held off Olathe North 42-36. The Jaguars have won 3 games by 1-score margins. Junior Reggie Reese continued his breakout season with 23 carries for 155 yards and a score. The Jaguars will travel to Gardner Edgerton this week in a game that could decide the Sunflower League Championship. Next at 6A, number 2, Gardner Edgerton 5-0. Number 2, St. Thomas Aquinas 5-0. Last game, edge rival Bishop Miege 28-24. St. Thomas Aquinas scored 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns in rallying to beat rival Bishop Miege 28-24. Aquinas is one of 5 undefeated teams left in Class 5A, along with Batesville Linwood, Great Bend, Maize South, and Goddard Eisenhower. The Saints leads the Eastern Kansas League standings. Next, they will be at Rockhurst, Missouri, 5-1. Number 3, Blue Valley, 5-1. Their last game, they beat Blue Valley North 42-14. Blue Valley dominated struggling Blue Valley North 42-14 on the road. Charlie Stackerwhite, I hope I pronounced it right, rushed for 3 touchdowns, and quarterback Christopher Alio added 3 touchdown passes. The Tigers, Blue Valley West, and Blue Valley Northwest all have 1 league loss. Next, at Blue Valley Northwest 4-1. Number 4, Goddard Eisenhower, still undefeated at 5-0. Last beat Andover 21-17. Goddard Eisenhower held off upset-minded Andover 21-17 at home. The Tigers trailed 6-0 at halftime before rallying in the second half. Senior Derek Morgan posted 11 of 16 passes for 168 yards and 3 scores against 1 interception. Next, they will be at Ark City 1-4. Number 5, Great Bend 5-0. Their last game out, they beat Dodge City 28-14. Great Bend won at Dodge City 28-14 to open Western Athletic Conference play. The Panthers have 4 quality wins at McPherson versus Olathe South and versus Buhler and at Dodge City. Great Bend quarterback Daxton Minton posted 16 of 19 passing for 183 yards and 2 scores. The Panthers will travel to Liberal 4-1 this week. Now we take a look at 4A. Number 1, Lewisburg at 5-0. Their last game they won at Eudora. Lewisburg moved to the number 1 spot and is the lone undefeated squad in Class 4A. The Wildcats won 42-14 at Eudora and will be heavily favored in its last 3 regular season contests. The Wildcats silenced the Eudora home crowd with a 35-0 first half performance. Ashton Moore rushed for a pair of touchdowns in the first half, and Miles Vose rushed for a score and caught a touchdown pass from Axel Saad. Vose then returned an interception for a score in the second half. Lewisburg has not lost a regular season contest to a Kansas school since 2021. Up next, Lewisburg will take their show on the road while they venture into the city of Wichita, Kansas to take on a 2-3 Wichita West High Pioneer team. Number 2, Andover Central 4-1. Last week they fell 22-16 to Goddard, a game that I was in attendance at. Andover Central took a slight upset loss 22-16 at home to Goddard. Last year the Jaguars went 9-4 and finished as Class 4A state runner-up. That season included a loss to Goddard. Andover Central outgained Goddard 233 to 165. All of Goddard's yards came on the ground. Goddard scored 2 non-defensive touchdowns, a pick six, and a return for a score. Next, versus Salina Central 3-2. Number 3, Cape and Mount Carmel. Their last game, they shut out Wichita Southeast 62-0. Cape and Mount Carmel rebounded from their loss to Wichita Northwest by dominating Wichita Southeast 62-0. The Crusaders will face rival Bishop Carroll in the Holy War this week. Cape will then close out the regular season with home games against St. James Academy and Wichita Heights. Their next game, as mentioned, at Bishop Carroll 2-3. Number 4, Wamego 4-1. They last beat number 4 Buhler 29-16. Wamego held off then number 4 Buhler 29-16 in a road win. Wamego trailed for most of the contest. The Red Raiders took their first lead 21-16 midway through the fourth quarter. They would add a second fourth quarter touchdown less than a minute later to lead 29-16. Next up, they will be at Chapman 1-4. And number 5, Wellington 3-2, last won against Augusta 40-21. Wellington won its third straight game 40-21 at Augusta. Wellington lost at Wichita Collegiate and Andale in one-score games to open the season before 3 consecutive victories. It marked the first time Wellington had played Augusta since 2019 per Summer Newscow. Wellington had not won at Augusta in at least 2 decades. Next, versus Winfield 4-1. I am going to try to give you the rest of these in the time I have allotted before it's time for me to get out of here. We're looking at 3A now. Number 1, Andale 5-0. They last played against Nickerson and demolished them 58-6. Andale is one of 6 undefeated teams left in Class 3A, along with Marysville, Wellsville, Frontenac, Heston, and Cheney. Andale and Heston are both 5-0, 2-0, and headline District 6. Andale dominated Nickerson 58-6 and has won all its games by at least 41 points. Next, at 1-4, Smoky Valley. Right behind them, the team that knocked them off their perch last year. Number 2, Cheney 5-0, last won at Hoisington 47-18. Cheney has won 18 straight games and is ahead of 3 teams with winning records in District 7. Wichita Collegiate 4-1, Pratt 4-1, and Clearwater 3-2. Cheney won a key non-conference game at Hoisington 47-18, helped by the defense forcing 7 turnovers. Next, versus 1-4 Chaparral. Number 3, I'm so proud of this school because I've been to the town of Marysville. I used to always pass by this school, and I used to talk to some of the locals, and so I know they're very proud to see this. But number 3, Marysville 5-0, outlasted Abilene 22-20 in overtime. Marysville is off to a 5-0 start and leads District 5. Marysville held off Abilene 22-20 in an overtime road victory. Marysville has 3 wins by a combined 16 points, one of the state's biggest turnarounds. Marysville had 4 straight losing seasons. This marks the Bulldogs' first 5-0 start since 2017. Both teams scored in the overtime, but Marysville's 2-point conversion was the final margin. Next, versus Rock Creek 4-1. Number 4, Topeka Hayden 4-1. Last shut out Hiawatha 49-0. Topeka Hayden dominated Hiawatha 49-0 and bounced back after its 31-28 road loss to Wamego. The Wildcats will now travel to Houghton to take on the Houghton Wildcats. Hayden and Houghton have long met in key district playoff contests, and this one will be no different. Houghton and Hayden both face Class 3A District 4. Next, once again at Houghton 3-2. Number 5, Scott City. They beat Hugoton 5-0, 50-0. Scott City dominated Hugoton 50-0 in a home contest. The Beavers led 34-0, one play into the second half, per Western Kansas News. Kelton Cook finished with 7 carries for 173 yards and 2 scores, including an 80-yard touchdown run to open the second half. Next up, at Holcomb, 4-1. Now what I'm going to do so I can wrap this up, I'm basically just going to give you the top 5 teams and who they will be playing next in 2A and 1A. Southeast of Saline will be traveling to 2-3 Hillsboro. Number 2 Norton, 5-0, will be hosting 2-3 Russell. Number 3 Nemaha Central will be at 4-1 Sabatha. Both teams entering that contest at 4-1. Number 4 Silver Lake will be hosting 4-1 Raleigh County, and number 5 Osage City at 5-0 will be at St. Mary's 3-2. In 1A, number 1 Conway Springs at 5-0 will be at 3-2 Sterling. Number 2 Cedric 5-0 will be hosting 3-2 Inman. Number 3 Jackson Heights 5-0 will be at Onaga 2-3. Number 4 Mountain Ridge 4-0 will be at Marion 4-1. Number 5 Rossville 2-3 will be at Caira Paravel 1-4. So I hope this will get you ready for some high school football. I have enjoyed bringing this information and content to you. Once again, this particular segment and this whole show, this part of the show, was courtesy of K-Preps. Tied it in with my other show that got abruptly cut off. I want to thank K-Preps and Metro Sports Mocan for the content, which is why I say this is the number 1 podcast in the state of Kansas, because it gives student athletes a voice, coach's corner, and great content from those who allow me to use their content on my podcast. I thank you immensely. Until next time, take care of yourself. Go enjoy some football. It is Football Friday. I'm out.